Hello YouTube and welcome to another video. In this one I'm going to be doing some work on this SXR 800 which came to me in parts bins, and hopefully very soon we get to take it out on the water and give it a test. This is not mine. I've talked about it in a couple of videos already. I'm getting it ready for somebody else, and yeah, hopefully I get to take it out on the water fairly soon and take it for a rip. It's a fairly interesting project. The reason why I'm showing you guys this footage, or part of the reason, is to show you that not all of my projects take like 9 months to do. I am capable of working quickly when it is a fairly straightforward build like this. I guess not terribly straightforward, but when it's just putting things together, I can put stuff together fairly quickly. I just go way off the tracks when it's my own stuff. Speaking of my own stuff, this video was actually going to be the final bed plate video, building a carbon fiber bed plate, but I recorded footage on 3 different memory cards, and then I lent my Hero 9 to Megan. She went out bobsledding today, and I gave her my Hero 9 with footage on one of the memory cards, and so I didn't have that footage to edit into the video. So hopefully Monday or Tuesday I will get that video out, and I have to say that I am extremely excited. I actually haven't pulled the part out of the mold yet, but I'm really excited. I've also been doing some work to the X2 hull, and I'll probably just show you guys that in the bed plate video, because I don't want this video to be too long, and I want the X2 content to stay in X2 videos. So anyway, let's just get into it. Enjoy the video. I'm working on this ski, and I see that it has a Blosian billet aluminum fuel cap. And it looks kind of neat, I guess. I could kind of care less. I actually don't terribly like the look of it, and it's not that easy to unscrew because of the shape of it. Anyway, I got wondering how much it actually weighs. So let's pop this thing on the scale and see how much this ridiculous thing weighs. You don't really have to be a weight weenie to be concerned about that kind of weight difference. This is 12.2 ounces, 12.3 ounces. And the original one is 1.9. Do that in grams. The Blosian fuel cap, 349 grams, or 54. That is ridiculous. Anyway, look what I've got to work on. I've got this SXR 800 and a whole bunch of bins of parts. Got bolts and clamps and all sorts of things there. This container's got a whole bunch of wiring stuff and fittings and random cables and nonsense, steering cables apparently. We've got a drive shaft, exhaust, stator, whole bunch of stuff. The pump, great. And in this one, this is engine and carbs and intakes and all that good stuff, e-box. So yeah, I've got my work cut out for me. I probably won't film a whole lot because I'm just trying to get this done quickly so that I can get it out on the water. Drive coupler is gone. It has some of the exhaust stuff installed. Got the motor mounts in there, some hoses. I think this is the mount for the e-box. It looks like the cables were installed without this thing getting installed, so that means I'm going to need to pull the cables out. First step, I got the cables pulled out, and now I'm installing this thing in place. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking when you're working on something that other people have worked on. Don't really know what the starting point is and what was done correctly, but anyway, I'm just going to continue on. I got to find some bolts for this. Got a big tray of bolts over here. just random sizes and stuff, random lengths and sizes. So I got this bellow on, and I've got the throttle cable and steering cable routed through. I still have to put the nut on the outside and put this little thing on here, which I'll do now. And then I think what I'll do next is put this thing on. I'm not sure if these are the right bolts, but I'm going to use them because they have bigger heads on them, and the holes in these are quite large so that you can adjust the placement of the bearing. So yeah, that's what I'm going to use. I've got that carrier bearing, or whatever you call that, in, and I'm putting the drive shaft in. The drive shaft is now in. I'll set that there, I guess, for now. I don't think I'll put the pump in next. The pump can slide in at any time, so I think next I'm going to check out the E-box and the wiring to make sure I get all that stuff in before I pop the engine. This is the type of stuff you don't want to see when you're putting a ski together. These two holes, I think, have bolts broken off in them. Either way, yeah, I can't get bolts in them. And threads are non-existent. I don't think the camera will pick it up, but these two holes have threads in them. This is for the battery tray, by the way. I had to dig some paint out to get the bolts in, but all right, after a bit of shenanigans, I got the battery box bolted in. So on to the next step, whatever that is. Battery box now installed. Still got a bunch of bits to hook up to it, obviously, but it's in there. Bam! That is installed. Wire is run down through the hand pole, through the little grommet. I found the little cable tie things for all the wiring along here, so now I know where that goes. Over there I've got the engine that's going in this beast. It's not completely built. It needs the flywheel, stator, cover, exhaust, intake manifold, carburetors, filters. All this stuff needs to be put on still. But it's mostly built. Intake manifold installed. Now I'm going to, I think, probably put the flywheel on and the stator cover. Alright, there is no flywheel key, but fortunately I have some X2 parts. I've got a container here. I had to look through about 5 different containers, but I did find a flywheel key. The other thing that I need that I don't have, I have somewhere, but I need the little washer for the starter bendix. Alright, I think I found the washer. Oh wow, this starter bendix is not in good shape. There's another one here, let's see. Okay, this one's better. Wow, that other starter bendix was in really bad shape. Quite unfortunately, I made a mistake and installed the flywheel before installing the starter bendix, so I need to pull the flywheel off, but it uses a different puller from both the 1100 and the 650, so I need to come up with something. I looked through my pullers and I didn't find anything, and then I started checking for the thread size. And I came across an old piece of the 650 drive shaft that I had cut off because I cut and shortened the drive shaft. And that fits perfectly into the flywheel. So I'm going to try to use the end of the old 650 drive shaft as a puller. Before I screw myself over big time, I'm going to throw this in my lathe and cut a few threads off of this so that I'm not damaging the threads. Yeah, it worked. So If you need to, you can use a 650 drive shaft to remove your 800 flywheel. Or a better solution would just be to put your starter Bendix in first. So I installed the exhaust because it appears as though it's the wrong intake manifold for this. So I started to put the carburetors on and thought they were the wrong carburetors, but turns out that these had Makunis. I started to put the exhaust manifold on, had to take the exhaust apart, had to take that part off to get it on, and I'm not going to put that on until it's in the hull because it seems like that makes the most sense. So I started to put the pump on. I put the steering cable nut on, which I've never done before. I put the retainer in the cable, which I didn't even realize was a thing, but I figured it out. We've got a little bit of a situation back here because this hull was modified in the past. It actually has 3 cooling lines going into the hull and the siphon over here. So the way I'm setting it up, it's only going to have 1 cooling line, I believe, anyway. Maybe these have 2 from the factory. Anyway, I'll have to look at a diagram for the cooling system. But what I did find out is that the pump, not a big deal, but the nozzle's on upside down. So the steering link is over here, which looks like it might have been broken in the past. Anyway, the steering link is over here, but the steering cable is on this side. I was able to find a service manual, and it turns out that this whole cone is flipped. So this must not have been here originally. The siphon must be one of these hoses, but they used it as a feed for the cooling. Alright, it's been quite a while since I've done an update. I think it's about 10 p.m. now. And I've hooked up the wire and the cooling hose. I think it's easier to do it this way. That way you're not reaching in here trying to hook these things up when the engine's in the hull. It's a lot easier to hook these things up. It's easier to get at them. I've put on some of the lines. I've figured out some of the routing of the cooling lines and stuff. And so I installed the pump, or I've almost installed the pump. I've got the bilge line. So this is the siphon line. The next one up is the feed. There's only going to be a single feed, single cooling line. And then the one above that is actually the exit for the exhaust cooling. Anytime you do a build that somebody else has taken apart, it's always a little bit tricky. But this is a bit unique because this is basically being put together from about 4 different parts kits. So it's not like this ski was taken apart and put in a couple of bins. It's like this ski was taken apart and a bunch of other skis were taken apart. And then, yeah, I've just got bins of a whole bunch of parts. And I've got to figure out where everything goes, so it's kind of fun, really. I've decided to block off the siphon, which is right here, and also the outlet for the exhaust, or the water outlet for the exhaust. So I've got those 2 blocked off. I'm going to have the water coming in here. I know you guys can't see that. I'm going to have the water coming in here. And then it already has 3 bypasses coming out through the side of the hull. So I want to use at least 2 of them up. So I'm going to bypass, basically I'm going to bypass where the factory one comes out, but I'm also going to use one of the bypasses for getting rid of the exhaust water. And that way, if there's a blockage or something in the exhaust, you'll be able to see it coming out there. Anyway, I'm going to come back to this tomorrow. It's about midnight now, something like that. And I am missing a few pieces. I'm missing the cap for here and also the connectors from the CDI box. This is the connector I was talking about that I don't have. So hopefully I can figure something out there. 3 of these wires. Yeah, I guess there's not a whole lot of wires here. But yeah, these are the trigger coil wires. These are the charge wires, so to charge your battery. There's no source coil wires. I was going to put the engine in, but I want to make sure that I leave room in case I need to get into the e-box. I've made quite a bit of progress on the engine. I'm thinking that it'll be pretty easy to get the intake manifold bolted in, even with the engine in the hull, so I might do that tomorrow. But I've left this bracket loose until I get the lower pipe actually bolted in place. I just put it in place with a couple of bolts so I could figure out where the line... This is the water line I was talking about that is going to go out one of the bypasses. So this fitting here will go to one bypass, and this fitting here will go to another bypass. This is where the only water line going in will go. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Okay. Oh, the camera fell over. Well, I got it in. I didn't hurt myself, and I didn't break or scratch anything. All right, for any of you wondering if this exhaust will fit into the hull, now that I've got the engine in there, I was wondering the same thing, and I tried it a little bit and was about to unbolt the engine and move it, and then I figured this out. I've put the hose on there since, so it might be a little bit tighter, but you put it in there like that. And there you go. Not that hard at all. I've got the bracket for the exhaust installed and tightened up. I've already installed the 3 bolts here and the 2 bolts on this piece here. I got the pipe to fit. I don't think I filmed any of that, but I found a coupler in that box that worked. Actually, it was this coupler, sorry, that one was already there. I had to change the kind of positioning of this coupler in order to make this pipe fit properly. I still need to deal with some of the electronics, I guess, so maybe that's what I'll look at next. I'm having a little conversation with Zach about his 900. He tried it out for the first time today, and it had so much power it twisted the drive shaft off. Kind of. But anyway, I didn't have the right connectors for this, so I ended up removing... Yeah, I tried to come up with a solution where I could put these all in one connector, and that didn't work out. So what I did is I pulled all the pins out. I connected them together just without any actual plastic connector. So they're all connected together, good connection, and I put some decent heat shrink on them. So now I'm going to bolt this in place and hope that I don't have to do anything with that. I had a look at the wiring diagram, and it turns out that somebody was playing with the wiring on this. It is supposed to have wires from a charge coil or an exciter coil, and all I have here are the wires from the the charging coil, so the one that goes to the voltage regulator, and then these are the trigger coil wires, the pickup coil. That's all the wires that come from here. So I'm hoping that whoever was playing around in there knows what they were doing. It must be an aftermarket CDI. So yeah. All right, YouTube. It's been quite a while since I did my last update. It is currently, I guess it'll be Saturday morning, 1 a.m., a little after 1 a.m. Saturday morning. I got the vent line run with the check valve in it. I got the bypass lines run and some tie wraps loosely fit in place. I got the wiring harness kind of run where it's going to go. So this is the wiring harness for the start-stop switch. I got the e-box all wired up. I'm hoping that it was wired by somebody who knew what they were doing before this, because I just connected colors to colors and there are some missing. I put some plug boots on it. There were plug boots in one of the boxes. And even though I hate them, they're the style that go on over the threaded part. I used them anyway. I don't know why anyone would want to use those, but they're on there. Got the boots tie wrapped onto the wires, so that's tidy. Trying to figure out how to route the throttle cable. That doesn't seem to make sense, but I don't really see a way that does make sense. So yeah, I've been looking at the manual. They show all sorts of stuff about the throttle cable, but they don't tell you how to route it. So I was going to run all the fuel lines to the carburetor, but the carb isn't actually mounted in place because I don't have the right manifold. I don't have a battery for it either, and there was something else. So primer, battery, yeah, there was no connector, but I just made that work. I still have to plug one of the bypasses because there's 3 bypasses on the outside of the hull. I need to get the intake manifold, and I need to hope that it actually has fire when I spin it over. I guess I could actually turn it over at this point and see if it has fire. I'm going to attempt to fire this up for the first time. I just have the intake manifold held on with 2 nuts, and I've sprayed a little bit of oil and starting fluid in there. Not starting fluid, but flammable fluid. I checked for spark. It is sparking, so let's see what happens. Oh, that was a fire. There we go. All right, we got the fire. All right. So we know it runs. That's good. I apologize for the shakiness of the footage in that last clip. I was using my iPhone because I didn't have a camera handy, and I just wanted to get a quick clip of firing this thing up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I also hope to get this thing out fairly soon. That is basically where I'm at with this ski. I'm waiting for an intake manifold, and once I get that, I can pop this thing together and get out on the water. I'm excited for that because I haven't been out a whole lot this year, and it's kind of a neat thing when you actually build something with your own hands and then take it out for a rip. There's always the chance that something's going to go wrong. I will take my truck with me, of course, with all of my tools, and hope that it goes okay. I've got some news about a CDI box that I ordered, and the bed plate and stuff that fuel tank and just a bunch of stuff for the X2. I'm going to save that for another video to keep it all in X2 content. Hopefully I'll have that out for you guys fairly soon. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram,